Welcome to With All Due Respect. This is a podcast for women over 40 who are looking for sane, frank advice about their health and wellness, especially through and after menopause. I'm Amanda Thebe, a personal trainer and nutrition coach, and the author of the best-selling book, Menopocalypse: How I Learned to Thrive During Menopause and How You Can Too. I'd love you to join me every week as I chew the fat with some fab guests on hot topics that directly impact you. I also know the power of conversation is lost, and there's nothing better than sitting down for a natter with your mate and putting the world to rights. And that's exactly what I'll be doing with this podcast. We'll really get to know my guests, warts and all. I've made it my mission to help you by exploding a few myths and presenting you with plain, simple facts. These inspiring conversations will hopefully empower you to be a healthy, strong, resilient bitch, just like me. Before we get started, don't forget to hit subscribe and leave a review, and then visit me at amandathebe.com. And now let's get started on today's show. Welcome back to With All Due Respect with me, Amanda Thebe, and I am joined today by my good friend, Catherine O'Keefe. Welcome, Catherine.
Hey, Amanda. How are you?
All right. Catherine's Irish, just in case you didn't know. We've been connected for a couple of years now. Love this woman. We definitely share lots of the same philosophy and beliefs, and which are obviously the same thing. But we often contact each other, don't we, Catherine, and go, what do you think about this?
What's that about? What's going on, Amanda?
What's going on?
Yeah. What's the crack?
Yeah, oh my God. People won't know what you mean by what's the crack. Like in America, they'll be like, what crack? What does crack mean? What does crack?
What's the news? What's the fun? What's going on?
What's going on? So before we get stuck in, I'm going to talk a little bit about Catherine, just in case you don't follow her. She's on Instagram and all of those places as the Wellness Warrior, based in Dublin, Ireland. Is that right? Are you in Dublin or just outside?
Dublin, no, in Dublin.
Oh, you're in Dublin, yeah. So she's the founder of Wellness Warrior, and she also is the creator of the very, very, very first ever Menopause Summit in Ireland called the Menopause Success Summit. I actually spoke at that once during the lockdown of COVID. It was all online at one point. Happens I saw 2020. Oh, God, I don't know why. I think I had long COVID when I did it, so I shouldn't forget that. I think I was a mess. She's also a menopause workplace consultant and actually helped me sort of launch that side of my career because I was getting lots of requests and didn't know where to start. So Catherine sort of mentored me in that place, which I am eternally grateful for. Such a kind person. And the exciting news about Catherine is she's now a published author. Yeah. And it's called All You Need to Know About Menopause, and it's a friendly guide to answer all your questions in a really down-to-earth, practical way, which is very much Catherine's MO, right? Like, let's make this real. Catherine just tells it like it is in a very lovely way, a very supportive way. Anyway, thank you for coming on today, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
So, let's just talk about where we met, because it obviously was Instagram, because that's where I meet everyone.
Yeah.
And now I've never been to Ireland apart from in the airport, like Dublin airport a bunch of times, but I've never been to see it.
There's a bit more to Ireland than the airport. We'll get you back someday.
Yeah, I'd love that. Yeah, we met on Instagram, I think. How? Do you remember how?
I would say probably through Diane Danzabrink, I think. Would that be right?
You like that's right.
That way? Yeah.
We've all sort of got a very similar role in our respective places, like Diane in the UK, you in Ireland, me in North America, trying to be that patient advocate, sharing very balanced views, trying not to be extreme in our views. And I think we've all been doing it now for years, right? 7, 8 years, something like that. And with Diane's Make Menopause Matter campaign, which was something we both, wholly supported. Women were lacking that knowledge and support, and we totally got behind that. So how do you get into this then? How did you become the wellness warrior of menopause? Was that on your bingo card growing up?
No, it wasn't. No, and even when I was younger, Amanda, I always wanted to write a book, but I wasn't planning a book on menopause. I'll tell you that much. No, so my former career was I was a director in investment banking. I was actually with Merrill Lynch, which was subsequently taken over by Bank of America, but I was with them for over 20 years, and towards the end of my time in the bank, I started perimenopause. So it was kind of my own journey then that I realized, hang on, no one's talking about menopause at all. There was very few voices in Ireland at the time talking about menopause, and certainly nobody was talking about perimenopause much at all. And in the workplace, it wasn't discussed. So I think I subsequently left the bank, and my kids were quite young at the time. So I took a year or two out and just spent time with them. And then I kind of was like, okay, what's next? So I'd started to blog, I'd started to write a lot about menopause. And then I was asked to do talks, and kind of one thing led to the other. And I guess like you, utterly passionate about it. And, you know, particularly about supporting women as they're going through it with balanced information. And that's something, you know, more and more every day I become more passionate about, because I do fear for Ireland. I have a lot of concerns in terms of the conversation is very one-sided at the moment over here. And really, I think it's very important now that we just keep it balanced, and that we understand that it's, you know, as you know, it's an individual experience. And I think respect is a huge part of the conversation around menopause. And I think, look, we all have our own personal views about things, but I'm very much, you know, it's unbiased, because the way I look at it is I have this information which I want to share to help as many people as I can, but I can't force my personal views onto somebody who maybe might not suit them, you know. So I think that's where the unbiased information and practical information and support is really important, you know. And I guess that, like you, that's something that's what I'm all about.
What's the one-sided conversation that you're seeing in Ireland?
Well, I think it's become very medical over here in terms of the support around menopause. And I support that where it's needed and where it's warranted. And we know, like, that, you know, there are certainly women who do need medical support, whether it's HRT or non-hormonal medication. But then we also know that there's women who don't, who maybe need to do different things, who maybe need to tweak their lifestyle and so forth. And what I'm finding now is a lot of women are saying to me, God, Catherine, I'm worried now because I'm not on HRT, I'm not on medication. Am I putting myself at risk for further down the line? And, you know, I always kind of say, well, tell me about your lifestyle. You know, are you exercising? Are you watching what you're eating? And have you any symptoms? And they'll kind of say, well, no, I have no symptoms, but they're doing the lifestyle. So then it's kind of like, well, you're good. You know, so there is this kind of thinking out there now that you're missing out if you're not taking HRT. And Amanda, I just think that's dangerous, because we can't just think that every woman should be on HRT. I don't believe that is the end result that anyone should be looking for. I think we've got to look at the individual experience, and we've got to take into account the symptoms that a woman is experiencing as she's going through menopause. And that's where the respect for the individual experience is so important. And here now, I'm seeing that's in Ireland, I'm seeing that conversation has gone very much in terms of, you know, well, why aren't you on HRT? And nearly that many women find that they nearly have to kind of explain to their friends even why they're not taking HRT, and they may be in the menopause years, but they will say, well, I don't need it, you know. So I guess that's kind of,
yeah. And you've seen the pendulum swing, right? So I've seen that in the UK. I don't feel like it's like that so much in North America, I mean in the USA and Canada. There's definitely the extremists in the USA more, which is like the private clinics with the unregulated hormones. They've always been there, especially in the South, like towards Texas. When I was there, I was like, holy crap, you can get whatever you want there. Like it's like the Wild West for sure. And I think that, you know, when you're talking about women from an individual perspective, experience, and you look at the medical consensus is really clear. And it's really clear in that, you know, for some women, it will be really helpful. And I think what happens is when women take hormone therapy and it's super successful for them, they almost evangelize about it, right? Like, as in, this has been so good for me, it's sort of great for you. And I think shared experience is super important. And I love to hear those sort of success stories because we know how debilitating it can be when your symptoms overwhelm you. But then I feel like it's a really ignorant view when you're thinking of the whole picture.
Yeah.
Because if I was to say, yeah, I didn't do well on hormone therapy, which I talk about all the time, that's not an anti-hormone therapy message. That's like let's look at this from a 360 viewpoint. Yeah. Some women will do well on it. Some women can never take it ever because of a contraindication. And some people don't do well on it. Some people don't want to do it. And all of those are valid. Why is that so radical to say that, I wonder?
Yeah, and I think that's where there's definitely, there are those viewpoints where it is kind of, I feel that sometimes women are literally like I said, they feel they nearly have to explain why they're not taking HRT. And that's wrong. That is really wrong, because we just shouldn't, it shouldn't be that all of a sudden that, it's nearly expected that as soon as you start perimenopause, you start HRT. My own doctor, Amanda, told me recently, she said her head is wrecked. She said she has women coming into her who are basically saying, I'm, 46, 47, I want HRT. And she's like, okay, what symptoms have you? And they're like, I have no symptoms. And she's like, well, then you don't need HRT. And she said she's finding it really challenging because women are basically coming in, and because they're seeing things maybe in the media, on social media, etc., in forums, that they nearly think, oh God, I must start this the minute I hit the average age of perimenopause, or that I'm going to lose out. And that's not right. I don't believe, that isn't right. And I think what I also see is that in some cases, we know not all doctors are fully trained up in when it comes to menopause, but at the same time, we have to listen to doctors. So, I would find, I'll talk to doctors here and, they'll kind of say that, in certain situations, HRT may not be what is required. It may be something else. Maybe it is no medication, or maybe it is antidepressants because of the presenting picture that's there. And I just think that, I just think in Ireland at the moment, we need to be very careful with this conversation, and I even think, we have a national awareness campaign now. The government kicked off last year. We're in the second phase of this. We're the first country in the world to do this, which is amazing. And that all started, conversations that started back in 2018 as part of the Women's Task Force. But I even think now, as part of those conversations, we've got to make sure that they're balanced, and that people understand that, if I take any form of medication, that's not a get out of jail card, meaning that I don't have to watch what I eat, I don't have to exercise, I don't have to watch my lifestyle. You've got to kind of, that individual respectful approach has to be taken, for everyone.
Well said, well said. And so, Rand, you see in my
soapbox.
My fucking hell.
And that wasn't really much of a rant.
You say it so sweetly, though. You're like, you say it so sweetly with that lovely accent. So then, yes, I know you feel like you're banging the head against the wall, and having a balanced, reasonable view. We know on social media it doesn't actually elicit a lot of likes or attention. Social media has, I was part of this article that was written for Science Direct, and I love this article, and it was like pros and cons.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it was a really good article. I'm saying it's a really good article because I was in it, but it actually was a really good article.
No, it was a good article. It was very balanced, and I liked the fact it gave the cons, it gave and the pros of social media. And I think I read them all, and I was like, yes to all of that. Yeah.
I mean, it's been a great place for people like you and I to be the bridge to the medical community that often don't have a social media presence. And here's my thing, right? A lot of the doctors that are doing this, their hands are dirty, they're in the trenches, don't have fucking time to post on social media.
They don't.
So there's a few really high-profile players in this that are leading the narrative. And when somebody leads the narrative away from the medical consensus, that's a red flag, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I called out was appeal to authority. And appeal to authority is the fallacy where somebody is highly educated, and you can't question them. And the idea that you say, but really, is that the case? And they shut you down. They shut you down like, I'm a doctor, I'm whatever, I'm right, you can't question me. And that's happening a lot. And I just think that that's very, very problematic. Okay, enough of us bitching. So listen, tell me about the book.
Tell you about the book. Well, you know what it's like writing a book. It's great crack, right? I said crack again. Anyway,
seriously, it's like the saddest existence ever. I can't told you I'm going to write a chapter.
Oh my God. But yeah, look, it's I'm so chuffed with the feedback to date, and it hit the bestsellers here in Ireland a couple of weeks ago. I think anyone who's come back to me, it is what I hoped it'd be, a practical approach, and it covers kind of all aspects of menopause, or, different, coming at it from different options. And the key kind of, I guess, the cornerstone of something I've worked on over the last couple of years is the 6 M's of menopause. And that's something that I've developed when I started working in workplaces back in 2019. All of this started to come to me slowly over time. And I found, as I was talking to companies, they loved the 6 M's of menopause, and people just were like, oh, what's the 6th M again? Remind me. And it just became...
actually, yeah. Why don't you just tell us what the 6 M's are? I know.
Yeah,
by the way, trademark that shit. Trademark it, because someone's going to come along and go, yeah, I'm going to use that too.
Yeah, well, you can. Seriously, yeah, really. Anyway. Don't know if you can trademark something like that, but yeah. Oh, anyway, someone will come with the 4 M's of menopause or something. But anyway, so the 6 M's of menopause, it's things we already know. But for me, it was very much kind of like, okay, once you have all the information, you understand menopause, you know what it's about, etc. Then what's your icing on the cake? What can you do practically now, other than, some basic lifestyle things we know, but what can you really do practically that's going to get you thriving in these years? Because Amanda, I am all for the positives of menopause. I kind of, all we hear about the majority of the time in the media are the really challenging stories, and I know they're there. I work and talk to women every day who are having challenging times going through menopause. We've also got to remember that there are good news stories of people going through it, and also people coming out the other side. So I think it's really important that we focus on that. So the 6 M's of menopause, the very first one is your MOT. Every year, check in with yourself. How are you on your birthday? How are you? How are you doing? How are you feeling? Do you need to get your bloods checked? Do you need a cervical smear? Do you need a breast check? Do you need, just keeping on top of yourself? Do you need to see your women's health physio? It's just keeping on top of yourself. The second one is movement. So that's exercise, right? You know that one. We don't need to talk about that one. The third one is menu. So that goes into kind of the key food groups, why they're so important, and just being mindful. I'm very conscious of the future-proofing opportunities of menopause. So to me, everything I do now in my perimenopause years is going to set me up for better health in my later years. So my mom has dementia. She's 92 now, Amanda, and she hasn't known me for 6 years, I'd say. So I'm very conscious of cognitive function. As you and I, we're both very, we follow closely Dr. Lisa Mosconi's work, and I think, so food is, so menu is the third one, really important. The fourth one is mingle. And this is about being connected with other people. And that is like, having that connection at work, having the connection at home, having the connection in society, because we know going through menopause, social anxiety can be quite an issue. So being connected and having your tribe is really important. The fifth one is meaning, and that all comes from the Japanese phrase ikigai, which is, what's your passion? What's your purpose? I'm a huge believer in this. I feel I live and breathe this one, because I know what my passions are. I know what my purpose is. I hope my purpose is to help women who are going through the same journey as myself. But, and my passions are many things. But your passions, your meaning is what gives joy to your life. And it's like, particularly I feel as you go through the whole menopause transition, It's kind of, what brings joy to your life? And you want more of that. So that could be like, for some people, it can be going to dance classes. For someone, it can be singing. For someone, it can be traveling. And it's just, my whole thing is bringing more of that into your life as you go through menopause. And then the sixth M is minding you. And that's really about crucial care. And, I talk about loads of different techniques in terms of how do you look after yourself in these years. I always say, people laugh at me for this one. I always kind of say, look, in an ideal world, we'd all be on the Maldives Islands, kicking back, having a great time.
Yeah, that should be your last M.
Yeah, the Maldives. But it's kind of like we'd be kicking back. But, life, we can't do that. We've got, responsibilities, life, work, etc. But in the midst of that, we've got to carve out the space that we are looking after ourselves, and if you bring all of those together, that is where you're really setting yourself up to have a much more positive, empowering experience of menopause. And the whole, whole underpinning of that is to kind of reframe how we look at menopause and realize that we hear there's a lot of scaremongering out there now. There's a lot of fear amongst women, and particularly I see the younger generation, because they're seeing all this and they're now dreading menopause. So I think it's really a really important part of the message is understanding that, hey, hang on, this isn't there. Yes, it can be challenging for many people, not for everyone. But we've got to understand that there's light at the end of the tunnel here, and there is light that comes through as you go through the years as well. So I think that's a really important part of the menopause conversation. So that's what, the 6 M's, they're just one section of the book. Then the rest of it covers, the symptoms of menopause, what it's all about, the different types of menopause, and then kind of menopause in the workplace and your options, your management options for menopause. So it's kind of,
oh my God, it's really all encompassing. I love it.
It is, yeah. There's a lot in it. Yeah.
Yeah, and going back to your 6 M's,
yeah,
and your icky nawa kawa thing,
Kigai.
Sounds like a Japanese omelette to me, but whatever.
And
Konnichiwa.
Yeah. Well, you see, I kind of, years ago when I was reading about menopause, and I was reading from the anthropological point of view, I came across a lot of the Japanese references, and the one that I really loved was Kanenkai, which is their phrase for the menopause years, and it loosely translates as renewal years and wisdom. So and that just rung to me as this is what it's about, because this is a renewal, because you are being kind of like the mirror is held up. You've got to look at what's going on in your life and your body, and it is meaning that you're being called to renew. You're being called to look after yourself better. So I think it's kind of just looking at, there's a lot of upsides, Amanda, and I think we've got to...
Yeah, but we do. It's just that it's very hard when you're getting drowned out by fear, for yourselves. I don't care how hard we try, but so, going back to the meaning and purpose type thing, I went to a talk when I was in New York, presenting at a conference there, and I listened to the other speakers, and there was this one woman whose TED talk was on happiness, and obviously we know that links in with the blue zone theory and all those things, how finding your joy, etc. But one of the things she did that she continues to do, and that I started to do, is something called finding delight. And it's a super simple thing, a super simple concept, but like something happens to you during the day, something like you'll go outside and there's crocuses out. Like I did that yesterday. I was walking, I was like, fucking get in, it's spring, I'm so happy. But it's like, take a photograph and just send it to your friends and just go delight. And it's like giving these little float delight to your friend. And it sort of starts this ripple, like effect that you just send delight, a little delightful thing every day. And you know what? It's like we've forgotten how to just like suck all of that joy in. We've just forgotten how to do it. And it's so integral. And I think that, like you said, this renewal idea, like there's something really grounding about. You and I are, I think, both postmenopausal. I'm 4 year postmenopausal.
I'm not. I'm still going through it.
sucks to be you. Well, I am. So there you go. That sounds like a you problem. As my kids would say.
Yeah.
And so like, as I went through menopause into postmenopause, there was like this real calming feeling came over me. And I don't think it came out of nowhere, because I'd done the work, I dug deep, I'd found how to like try and build this resilient mindset moving forward with a different attitude. And fucking hell, that was hard work. But like, I honestly can say, even though now and again I don't have good days, that could just be life.
But that's life. That's life though.
But for the most part, I believe that work is integral to the place I'm in now. And I see this with other women. Like, we have this sense of calm and ease. And I did a post the other day and I said, like, perimenopause is like the great unsettling. And it really resonated with people. It feels like
that.
But then postmenopause, you just feel the most settled ever. Like, because you're in this now, dear, for the rest of your life. So you have to find a place of calmness and settledness.
And
anyway,
I think you do, because I and in the book I talk about the kind of the voyage of menopause, and that like you do go through calm waters, but you go through really stormy patches. And I think it's those stormy patches that bring you to those lovely Maldives Islands with calm waters. But I think, like, there's so many great things that menopause offers us, but it's how we look at it. And there is a decluttering, Amanda, that happens as you go through these years, whether it's of aspects in your life, whether it's in your house, whether it's, a part of your lifestyle, whether it's in relationships. It happens because you're reassessing where you're at, and you're kind of like, okay, well, actually, maybe I don't need that book anymore. Maybe I don't need that piece of music. Maybe that relationship isn't beneficial to me. I think you reassess. And I think we don't like change. Humans don't like change. So that's unsettling. So we're going through this whirlpool of everything's unsettling, and then we've the symptoms and everything. So as you're going through the whirlpool, you're kind of in a tizzy trying to kind of find, okay, well, what way am I going here? But the thing is, you come out of the whirlpool and you do get your directions, and you do, kind of come to grounded land, and they're the chinks of light that you see as you go through different stages, I think, of perimenopause. And I think, the other thing that I would say is that, it's that future-proofing side of it is key, because, we have to look after our cognitive function. We really do. And our bone health and our heart health, and like, it's, bringing it all together, like understanding that, like, movement, it enhances our muscles, it enhances our bones, it helps how we feel psychologically. But it's longevity. It's what it's doing for us in the long run as well, So look, I know
and simplifying that process, because all of that, like, and those 6 elements to me are like so logical. I love the way you've talked about them. I love the names you've given them. But even then, people be like, "Oh no, that's too much." But the thing is about this is it doesn't need to be complicated. And when you're the voice of reason, trying to give a balanced, practical viewpoint, saying to someone, please just make a phone call and go and get your pap smear. Just go get it done. That's number 1 ticked. You're done. You can move on from that. Move. Have you been out for a 10-minute walk today? Do it. Even in the snow, wear good clothes. Like, it doesn't have to be complicated. And yet we know that these things actually are the drivers for overall improved health and longevity moving forward. And more than any medicine you can take.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, look, I think, we know medicine has a role to play, but I think we've got to just listen to what the medical associations are telling us, and certainly stay within strict guidelines. But we've also got to individualize the prescription of any medicine for anyone at any stage of life, not even for menopause.
I couldn't have got through menopause without medication, for sure. And I was doing all the other things. So I just want to clarify that. I never diminish anyone's experience. I just think that it has to go hand in hand. They can't be separated.
Yeah.
So as we come to the end of us gabbing, because that's gone quickly, I want to talk about how you started the very first ever menopause. It was a Menopause Success Summit, is what you call it. And I think it might be one of the first in the world. Like if there's maybe Rachel Weisz did one that was in the UK, the Menopause Cafe woman. It was about the same time that you did this, but I really do believe that you were one of the first people to do this. And I know it's a ton of work, right? But you were so determined to get to the women on the ground at a reasonable cost and to get some expert people in, right?
So I guess when I started in the menopause space, I started going around the country here in Ireland, Amanda, doing talks, just me in a room, and it was always packed. There was always women like dying to hear about menopause or, starved of knowledge. So I think that kind of led on then to, okay, well, how do you get more voices that women can hear from other experts in specific fields and so forth? And that's what led to the first virtual summit. And, you spoke at it, Lisa Mosconi spoke at it, which was fantastic. And that was done during COVID, so it was done virtually. And then after that, there was 2 events in Ireland, in 2 different locations in Ireland. And it was fantastic. We, again, rooms full, hundreds of women came, and just the community that comes with that and the camaraderie. And I think just the kind of understanding that you're not alone. And again, it's sharing the experience from experts from the UK and Ireland and loads of different countries in terms of looking at many aspects of menopause. And I think that's really what drives me is trying to, make women realize they're not on their own. And that's what the Menopause Success Summit is about. It's very much understanding that, I always kind of say, if you leave the room at the end of the day and you're smiling and you realize you're not on your own, then I kind of think, well, that's a big tick box. And I know...
Well, that's empowering, right?
Yeah.
And so the difference between giving women valid information that doesn't diminish their experience, that looks at the woman and says, hey, listen, we know this is happening. We know this isn't easy for a lot of you. Here's some things that you can do. Here's some questions you can ask. That puts the control back in the hands of the woman and empowers them. If you are somebody that's saying you have to do this and you start dictating to women and you endorse that message with fear or scaremongering tactics, that's diminishing women's power. And that's the difference between the work that you do and others that I see. And I love that because it's so important how we talk about menopause.
Oh my God, yeah. And I mean, the one thing is you want to, like, when I go into that room, when we have the summit and we have another one coming in October, it's all about lifting each other up. And the way I always kind of say it, we're in it together, and it's going on the journey together. And I think it is, the empowerment part of it is key. And so, like, the majority of, like, so many women who would give, contact me afterwards, they will all say that they came away smiling, and, they just feel like there's a ton weight lifted off them, because they realize maybe they sit beside someone they've never met before, and all of a sudden realize they're having similar experience to them. And all of a sudden it's like, God, it's not just me. I'm normal. I'm not kind of out on my own. And you just, all of a sudden, you kind of feel that actually this is normal. This is a natural, inevitable stage of life. And there's loads of things I can do to support myself. So you come away from it feeling 10 feet taller, because you are, as you just said, you are empowered. And that for me that's what the summits are about. It's empowering women with knowledge, and it's keeping that knowledge as up to date and relevant as possible.
As inevitable as death and taxes. I was laughing, scaring you. I'm just joking. But it's like when I used to coach people, for personal training, my only goal whenever I saw them, and as a coach, this is what we do. We want them to leave us feeling better than when they came to us. Ultimately, that's our goal, because people lose belief in themselves. You and I have been through this. You and I have living proof that, like, we're confident people that lost ourselves and felt isolated. It's why I have a Menopausing So Hard Facebook group. There's 17,000, 18,000 women in that now, because they were all feeling alone. It's no different, right? And so however we can reach more women, the better. So anyway, so that's our in October then, Donna?
Yes, that's in October. So in person. So we'll have more on that soon. We're just finalizing details at the moment. But yeah, and each time it is about changing it, it's about tweaking it, and it's listening to what women tell me, because I get feedback from the hundreds of attendees after each one, and I read all the feedback. So based on all the feedback, we tweak each event. So we're tweaking this one again, so that, just again, that it's more supportive of my community and more supportive of women going through any stage of menopause.
And it's really good that you're doing that, because I've presented at many events and actually attended them. And when there's too much choice and too many people, you listen to one talk and go, oh my God, that was so inspiring. And then you see another and you've forgotten what you've just learned. And I think this the smaller groups with a more wholesome conversation, to me, work better, rather than having like 20 speakers on all together in like 5 and 10 minutes each. It's just exhausting. No, we're exhausted already. We don't need to be more exhausted,
Well, I think it worked. It worked with the virtual summit we had. I can't remember. Was it maybe 13 speakers, maybe 14? No, maybe 12, 13.
For 2 days, though.
No, that was one day. And it worked because it was virtual, I think. But I just know, you're spot on in what you're saying. It's less is more.
Less is more. So, Catherine, before we go, because I know you got to go and get the kids, tell me, you just ran a half marathon.
Oh, I did in Berlin. That was fab.
Why did you go to Berlin? Like, we have them in Ireland, I know that.
We do have them in Ireland, would you believe? But you know what? Isn't it lovely to get an excuse to go away with your girlfriends for a weekend?
You're talking to me, though I'm never home.
That's why we went to Berlin. And we also went to Berlin because it's one of the flattest courses in Europe. So it ticks a lot of boxes. So it's great, because I haven't run a half since before COVID. I did the marathon back in 2018, and then I did halves after that. And I hadn't run a half since, probably 2020. So it was great to run a half again. The course was fabulous. Loved Berlin. Oh man, I mean, mind-blowing. Just one of the museums in particular I visited, it's still with me. I'm just mind-blowing, but mind-blowing on loads of different levels. But yeah, loved it.
The history there is crazy. And when I was, let me tell you how old I was, 11, my dad worked in Leipzig, which is in East Germany. And so to get there, you had to go from West Berlin to East Berlin through Checkpoint Charlie and Drebitz. And when it was still operational before the wall came down. And so as children, we went through the checkpoints.
Wow.
Got taken out of the car at gunpoint, shit ourselves. It was so scary. But we went to some of the museums there as well of people who'd escaped off. And so it's a very interesting place. But you did a half marathon, and that's really inspiring. And
no, it was brilliant. It was so brilliant. And it was kind of, look, for me, I was very much kind of thinking about the training for the half. So I had COVID at Christmas, and it took a while to get over it. And then I kind of thought, okay, I need to get back into the running. So the half was a goal just to kind of get me back into doing my regular running 3-4 times a week, which was brilliant. And, it's like movement, exercise, it's one of the most important aspects of my life. I do something every single day because it's so important. So, training for Berlin was just kind of for me, it was really getting my running back on track and giving me a very clear goal to work towards. So I think
you have to plan when you're training.
Yeah,
something like this. You can't just do it by a chance.
Yeah, and then you're kind of building up. So like a half marathon is 13.1 miles. That 0.1 is really important.
It's the last 100 meters.
But at that point, the 0.1 was when I touched the Brandenburg Gate, and I thought, yes. But the furthest you run in your training is like 11 miles. So but you kind of know, I've done marathons, you can do it, but it's even, and it's not only the physical part of it, it's a real confidence high too, Amanda. You know yourself, just that high of reaching a goal, whatever. And I just think with exercise, I think it's lovely to have kind of goals as well, whatever it is.
And even if you don't reach them, right?
No, yeah.
It's the showing up. You know, my half marathon that I would do, and it really isn't the one I should do because it's in San Francisco, so it's very
my
very
God.
hard. And I've been able to run for 18 months because I sheared my calf. It just popped, and then I had a Achilles tendonitis for a year and a half. It wouldn't heal. It's healed now. I'm excited to get back out now that the weather's changed. But I want to do the one in San Francisco only because at the end, there's a team of firemen that hose you down. And you get a Tiffany necklace or something at the end. And I'm like, fucking God, that's going to motivate me to run up a hill. Like, let's do it. But I might do a travel.
Yeah, the team of firemen, I must say that to my running friends. They'd love the idea of that. They'd be running into their arms. It wouldn't be the necklace. The necklace wouldn't do it. It would be the firemen.
I know. I don't know why all marathons want to have that. Anyway. So, listen, Catherine, I got to let you go. We've had a really good chat. I hope this was helpful to people. Where do you want people to go to find you?
Well, my website's wellnesswarrior.ie, but as you said, I'm on all social media platforms. I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn, and you can find me anywhere. All over the place. You find Amanda, you'll find me.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, my friend, for coming on. I very much appreciate all the work you do. Thank you for being so helpful to me in my work. It's always appreciated. And thanks and good luck with the book.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thanks, Amanda. Take care.
Thank you so much for listening to the show. If you like what you hear, then why not subscribe to this podcast and leave me a review? You see, when you do this, it helps to raise the profile of my show and attract new listeners. And it also allows me to continue to deliver valuable content with great guests. And in return for you doing that, I will send you my 12-week core-focused program called Abs on Fire as a thank you. Simply drop me an email at amanda@amandasteve.com and I'll wing that your way. Bye.